What is going on, YouTube? So coming back today with another video concerning college football. So we're moving into that time where college football is starting to come back around. Kickoff, I believe, is in 16 days. So I believe that's the Hawaiians, maybe Hawaii, Cal. Might be it. Either way, kickoff 16 days away. So today I wanted to do a college football playoff top 30. Now, I'm not doing, these are not my top 30 teams in college football. This is a video talking about my top 30 teams most likely to make the college football playoff. Again, this doesn't have to concern with the best teams. This has to concern with the teams that I think have the most likely chance of making it, regardless if it's just the situation you're in with schedule, the overall talent you have, or just, I think, what would be the most likely transpiring of events. So, let's go ahead and start at number 1, Alabama Crimson Tide. So, I mean, you can't, oh yeah, before I get through the rest of the list, or the entire results, this will be in the description below, or the entire list. So, Alabama, number 1, I mean, it's hard to knock off it's hard to take the former national champions off of number 1. I did an entire video talking about Clemson should be the title favorites, which I still do believe. But again, Alabama, I think the SEC is theirs for the taking right now. I honestly don't think there's a team in the SEC quite like Florida State that has the ability to knock Alabama off like Clemson does in the ACC. So second, Clemson. Again, I still think they're going to be in the college football playoff. If anyone's going to knock them off, it's going to be Florida State. And yeah, we'll get to Florida State a little bit later. But anyway, number 3, Oklahoma. So far and away right now, the Big 12 title favorites. You still got a few teams competing for that, or competing in that next tier down to maybe knock Oklahoma off that number 1 spot. I'd say TCU, Oklahoma State are the most likely teams to be able to do that. But again, I'll get to that one later. Number 4, Florida State. So I've seen some college football playoff rankings that have Florida State and Clemson both going to the college football playoff, and I just don't think that's going to happen. It'd be a very, very hard scenario to foresee. You'd figure that the game would have to be unbelievably close, and then both teams would have to run through the rest of their schedule. But the fact of having two teams from the same, not only the same like conference, but the same division in the playoff is just, it's hard to see. So next, at number 5, we got Michigan. So I'm a little skeptical about having Michigan at number 5, but at the same time, you look at the teams below them, and you're like, okay, it makes sense. So Michigan right now is the most experienced team in my opinion. Out of the top 3 coming out of the Big Ten between Michigan State, Ohio State, and Michigan. They got to figure out the quarterback situation, get that straightened up, but they will have a very, very dominant defense nonetheless, and whatever quarterback they do have will have a lot of weapons to work with at wide receiver and tight end between J.Hugh Chesson and Jake Butt. So, number 6, Notre Dame. Again, I wouldn't really have Notre Dame in the top 6 for a regular top 25 rankings, but I like the situation that Notre Dame has this year with quarterbacks. Either way, it's very easy to see Notre Dame making the college football playoff with either Deshaun Kaiser or Malik Zaire. And as long as they don't run into too many injury problems, I think they're going to be competing the entire year like they pretty much did last year for the college football playoff. So number 7, Ohio State. So in my first set of, it was either my first or second set of college football playoff predictions. I believe I've done 2 so far. Either 2 or 3, and I had Ohio State in the second one, or in the second set of them. So I don't think they are the favorite to take the Big Ten. I think that belongs to Michigan right now. But again, Ohio State, after the way they just beat down Michigan last year, you can't take Ohio State off that billing to be able to be a threat for the college football playoff inside the Big Ten. So number 8 got probably the Pac-12 favorite, and that's Stanford. Stanford just has a lot of question marks right now. Stanford, it's not like stupid to think that Stanford would be able to reload just in this year. They've done it before. Big question at quarterback, whether it's going to be Keller Christ or Ryan Burns. I've mentioned that a few times this offseason. And that decision, I think, will play a big part in how they do this year. So, number 9, LSU. And I mentioned LSU a million times. It's just, for me, it's whether they can find a quarterback or not. At least be effective at that position. So number 10, TCU. Now I've got my holdbacks about TCU also, mainly at the quarterback spot. I just don't think Kenny Hill's going to be that great. I don't think he's going to be that good this year. If you're going to ask my honest opinion, but I still think TCU is tremendously talented at almost every single other position on the team. The defense is a lot more put together than I think it was at the beginning of last year. So number 11, Oregon, and a lot of people are going to say this is a little bit high for Oregon on the list, which I could agree with to some degree. Now, if Oregon can get a little bit more consistent play out of their FCS transfer than they did from Vernon Adams last year when it comes to health and when it just comes to overall performance as the season goes along, if Dakota Prokop can really be that for them, and the defense even to some degree steps up better than they did last year, because the defense was absolute, or at least the defensive backs were absolutely awful last year, then they're given a chance. At least they have one of the best running backs in the nation in Royce Freeman, just one of the best weapons in the country. So at number 12, I got Tennessee. And again, until Tennessee can prove they can knock off a team like Florida or a team like Alabama, then they're still going to be this low. They have the ability to knock both teams off this year, but again, will it actually happen? Number 13, Florida. And again, I really, really, really like Florida as a sleeper for the college football playoff this year. Again, another subject I did an entire video about. Luke Del Rio seems like the more and more you think about it, the more and more you see like news come out and watch just like fall camp and just generic videos of him. It seems a little bit more reassuring every single time. It seems like he's ready to go, and this Florida offense will be okay. And even if this Florida offense is just okay, then this will be a very dangerous team. If the Florida offense under Treon Harris last year had just been okay, then they would have won. Who knows? They could have won the SEC championship. I mean, they just couldn't score. But again, that's a big if. So at number 14, we got Michigan State. Again, you can't really count out Mark D'Antonio, but you can't really count into effectively a team that lost as much talent as Michigan State did. You just can't discount the fact that they lose two of their biggest weapons on offense between Connor Cook and Aaron Burbridge, and that, Shalik Calhoun, who's maybe your leader on the defensive side of the ball, at least at the time. They do still have talent. Tyler O'Connor, I think, will most likely be the starting quarterback. And again, I love L.J. Scott at running back. I think he'll be a tremendous talent this year. And then Malik McDowell, you still got a leader on the defensive side of the ball. So it's not like, definitely not all hope being lost in East Lansing. So at number 15, got Oklahoma State. Two big question marks and then one semi-big question mark, and those are the offensive line, the running game is the big ones. They bring in Barry Sanders Jr., graduate transfer from Stanford, but the other running backs they still got right now, Chris Carson, Jeff Carr, they're going to have to step up this year as well. And then you also got the offensive line, even though they do return like four or five starters on the offensive line, will it be any better? It was a horrible offensive line last year. And then defensively, overall how good will they be defensively? I think that's the real unknown. Number 16, Houston. Now, Houston, talent-wise to me, is a lot higher than 16. And ability to have a good record is a lot higher than 16. Now, when you're a group of 5 team, you even slip up once and you're not in the playoff. That's the problem with Houston. I think even if they lose to Oklahoma, then they're pretty much done. That's the problem with it. Oklahoma is going to have to be the far and away number 1 team in the nation, I think, and then Houston's going to have to run through the rest of their schedule if they want to lose to Oklahoma and then still make the college football playoff. Number 17 got Georgia. So this is the Kirby Smart move to me is one that's probably not going to fail completely. It's one that I don't think worst case scenario to me honestly isn't that bad. Like I don't think it's like a high risk high reward situation. I think it's really just a high reward. For me, it's just how long is it going to take to get there? Could it get there this year? Yeah. I mean, they got a whole bunch of new pieces that I haven't really seen at Georgia in a while, like a quarterback as good as Jacob Eason, who I don't think they've had a quarterback that good since Aaron Murray. So, we'll see. and they get Nick Chubb back too. It's just a matter of, Georgia getting back to that level. How long is that going to take? Will they be able to upend Florida and Tennessee this year, which they weren't able to do against either last year? So, number 18, Washington. And again, did another video entirely about Washington, saying why they're going to be the most improved team in the country this year, which, again, I could very much see. Jake Browning, Miles Gaskin especially. I think a lot of people got high hopes for that kid. 19, Boise State. So, again, very similar to Houston. If they slip up, they're done. But I did my Boise State preview. I think I had them at like 13-1 this year. This is a team with a pretty friendly schedule that I think they play enough tough teams where if they go undefeated, they could be considered for the college football playoff. And this is a team that's just got so much talent coming back, that I could really see them, if they can be more consistent, making a run this year. Brett Rippon, Jeremy McNichols, one of the most underrated running backs in the country, in my opinion. This team, I think, is ready to go. So, at number 20, you got the North Carolina Tar Heels. Again, I think a lot of people are just kind of overlooking North Carolina as even a threat to anyone in the ACC this year. And, they were good last year, and I think they're going to be good again this year. Mitch Trubisky comes in, and I don't think he's going to, I say this a million times, I don't think he's going to miss a step compared to what Marquise Williams was able to do last year. They still have Elijah Hood. They still have Matt Collins, Ryan Switzer. They still got a ton of weapons on offense. So, number 21, UCLA. And my thing with UCLA is just they never seem to meet expectations. They always finish the year okay. Well, last year was a rough finish to the year, losing to Nebraska in a bowl game. But, Josh Rosen, I think, is ready to take that next step. Again, even though they lose Paul Perkins, which is it's going to hurt at running back, but, they still have Soso Jamabo. I mentioned that a million times. Defensively, I think they got a guy to lead that defense in Eddie Vanderdoes, which, again, I think this team is the Pac-12 South favorite for the year, but the Pac-12 South to me is also, I wouldn't say significantly worse than the North, but I don't think it's as good. So, number 22, Ole Miss. And again, do I think Ole Miss is a team that is 22nd best in the country? No, hell no. Like, Ole Miss is definitely, in my opinion, a top 15 team in the country. But you're in the SEC West. You're with LSU and Alabama. It's just, it's going to be hard. And then you got to get through the SEC East if you want to make it to the college football playoff, if you do win the SEC West. I mean, Ole Miss was close last year. They were actually I believe they had the second best record of any team in the SEC to finish the year last year. So, we'll see. Number 23, you got the Wisconsin Badgers. And again, I think they're the Big Ten, in my opinion, the Big Ten West favorites. Or I think they will win the Big Ten West. I don't think they're the favorites. That still belongs to Iowa. But again, this is in my mind. So I think Wisconsin's going to be good this year. And if you manage to win the Big Ten West, and if you get that far and you are the Big Ten champions, then, or have the ability to be, then you're probably in the playoff. That's my whole thinking with that. Number 24, got San Diego State. And again, this would be a hard road for them. If they slip up once, they will not make it. But if they do manage to get through their schedule, like, undefeated, I think they got a big enough brand name to, not the team, but I think they got a big enough name to get some national attention with Donnell Pumphrey at running back. And again, if they go through their schedule undefeated, beating a team like Boise State, then, I mean, you got to give them some attention. And Air Force. Air Force is a team that I think is pretty widely respected as one of the better Group of 5 teams. So, number 25, Iowa. Again, Iowa, to me, just historically, they're not a very good team after they have like a 10 or 11 win season, very similar to last year. They're a team that just has trouble being consistently like a top 10 team year to year. And they return a ton of talent. I mean, there's no doubt about that. They return their leaders on both sides of the ball. C.J. Beathard, quarterback, and then Des King in the secondary. And again, I think Iowa will be a good team this year. I just think that they're going to get upended in the Big Ten West. So, number 26, Baylor. And Baylor, to me, just has too much turmoil going on right now. They've lost too much to be able to win the Big 12. Coming into the year, I mean, obviously before the Baylor scandal, they were one of the top 10 teams in the country, no doubt, debatably top 5. Not anymore. Do they still have the talent there to at least make a run? Yeah. Number 27, USC. Again, talent's there, but man, the schedule is brutal. USC has the hardest schedule in the country. I mean, week 1 they got to play Alabama. Like, if they, I mean, granted they managed to pull off an upset of Alabama. It's a whole new ball game, but cross that bridge when we get there. Number 28, Wazoo. So Washington State, I mean, they got the quarterback to be able to make a run this year with Luke Falk. For me, Washington State, it's just the Pac-12 North is so crowded, and I think they're the 4th best of those top 4 in the Pac-12 North. I think they're going to be a very good team this year. Very tough to beat. But, again, I think they're kind of at the bottom of that pecking order of those top 4 teams. So, number 29 got Auburn. And for me, Auburn's still Auburn. They bring in a new quarterback, so maybe a new start will help them out. This is a team that I think if they give a jolt to their offense, this could be a very dangerous team this year. And to completely count out Auburn ever is kind of a mistake. I mean, any team that's been to 2 national championships in the last, 6 years, you can't really count them out of making it back again. And number 30, I got Louisville. Now, again, Louisville is in the top 20 to me when you're actually ranking teams out. But you're in a division with Florida State and Clemson. It's going to be hard to do. And then if you do manage to win that division, then you got to get through North Carolina in the ACC championship, which I believe they're about even with right now. So even that's a hard. That would still be a tough victory. So anyway, that'll pretty much do it for this video. Like I said, entire list will be in the description below if you did manage to skip forward to this point. Some people do that. Long video, one of the longer ones I've done in a while, but it's also fun to talk about college football in depth like this. Anyway, that's pretty much it. So yeah.